Okay, this is a very important topic. No one really cares because you are all brain degenerated consumers. Yesterday, let's hear this work. I spent 5 to 6 hours to verify a scientific study which links schizophrenia to brain damage, and there are so many scientific studies which the cause and effect, they only prove there's some correlation between this and that, but which is the cause and which is the effect, they don't care. They only intend to make a study with some controversial topic, and then the news outlet, they pick it up and then they make headlines, and these headlines are lies, they are evil, and here really saying that okay, but there is a let's skip this for a while, because right now this lab leak again. No, you should read these 10 keys of this nice Dr. Valentin Brüttel. He lives quite close to me. You should read this, and really it's by now totally convincing that this is a lab origin, and still he doesn't get published, and in science the truth is that what gets published. And so if you don't get published, and to get published you have to have a controversial topic, and that is in order with the main scientific, that I really call it Nazi science. You see, with Adolf Hitler and his Third Reich, there was also this Aryan supremacy, that the Germans were superior, and so all science that somehow made a connection to the supremacy, they got money and everything, and so something has to be done. You see, the facts are there, and nobody cares, and the news outlets still always repeats the old lies, and so my first approach was this from down to top, a new way of problem solving, but that's well in this stupefied idiocracy. The second approach is, well, we have to make an institute for good science, and this institute then make a crowdfunding for some tens to some 100,000 of dollars, and this money is used to pay a lawyer, and a lawyer really sues at court, pull them to court, all these bad scientists, and sue them to tell the truth. And this institute has this goal to advocate good science, and so if they publish bad science, they really make a damage, and so we can sue them for damaging our institute, and with this money we can again pay even more lawyers, and so there should really be the courage right now to bring this bad science to court. And so here you see, this is a good scientist, I would say, but no one listens to it. So yeah, we can close this. And I have this for many years now. These studies with only statistical research, making some link. In this case, it was this artificial sweetener xylitol, and increased blood activity, and so he did not even measure the xylitol levels in people like me who take these artificial sweeteners. It was just human endangerment. The human also generates very little levels of xylitol, and he did this, and then he did conclude, and I made my own study which showed that sugar does even more have this effect that he did show for xylitol. But yeah, and so this was really here where I made blood. I don't, and so as also with sugar, Yeah, really, it's very evil, and so I would like to make a broader approach, so an institute for that fights bad science, especially these statistical studies which somehow link. And here that's the study that I made my coding project yesterday, which made a link between a protein that is associated with brain damage, and this is normally increasing over age, because as people get older, well, the brain degenerates, and therefore there is this increasing level, and then they tested it for schizophrenia, people with schizophrenia and bipolar, so manic depression, and they found a correlation, and that's what I will talk about. But the news outlet, where is it? They all quickly picked it up and make their evil headliners. So, cause for mental disorder. Yeah. So really, cause and effect. So these here they only make a link between with therapy-resistant schizophrenia. These are schizophrenia patients who the normal medication don't work, and so they get the really bad ones, which might have really side effects like reducing the brain volume. And they found a link, but the news outlet then made already this headline, which continues here with accelerated degeneration could trigger disorder. So really cause and effect. And this is really evil, because there are many people with schizophrenia, they have a hard time, a hard life, and so if they now get the scientific proof that hard life is because, well, the brain is not functioning and it's broken, and so, well, okay, they can just jump off a bridge anyway. So such a study really I would say will cause a dozen more suicides. Schizophrenia, brains age faster. So what sense is there in life if my brain is going to age faster anyway? And so really, I hate. No, I don't hate. But this is really evil. These studies, and so this idea of really, I talk to you because alone you always move. I have this already for years, this idea to make such a portal, a website where here people, this Cassandra MJ Vannerman, here there's an email. She should never get a job again. You see, out of science, should do something else, like scientific journalism or whatever. You see, start making a better life, and so you see that they have this impressive figure. You see, they all also mention. You see, that's the control group. That's in truth, it's increasing. Yeah, this as NFL levels. That's protein in the blood, and it's somehow linked to brain damage. There may be other causes. Like learning a new language, I now say, because that triggers a plasticity, and these NFL, they are used for the axons. So in the neurons, to make the connections, you need this protein. And so if you learn a new language, that's just an example. I asked ChatGPT, and he said, no. But then I asked him, what if the plasticity, and you learn something new, and your brain adapts to the new and makes new connections? May this also increase this NFL? Yeah, there are scientific research that suggests that not only damaging but also rebuilding brain structures. And you see schizophrenia rebuilding, getting new voices every 2 or 3 years. But you see in this link that below 35 age, it's that brain damage is even less than the normal group. They mention it. They have no explanation for it. But they still can say, well, but it's increasing. You see, from lower to higher brain damage. And so increasing brain damage, and then the news outlet will say evil. And for bipolar, they find a correlation with decreasing. So in early age, they have more brain damage, and then it gets less. And you have increasing also for depressive, slightly decrease. You see, it's a proof there is no cause and effect, because if there is this brain damage would be the cause, well, in the onset of their disease, they have even lower brain damage according to this evil study. And so I really try to take a look at this graphic, and so the first thing I did notice that this control group, that's nearly 2,000 of data points here, 1,926 and 5, whereas all these other, it's the therapy resistance, that's 82, and the bipolar is only it's 121, and depressive is 42. And so if you now go back here to this image, and okay, I have to say, here this is a standard deviations, so plus minus 2. And so where if you ask Gemini, what is a Z-score? Well, it says you, artificial, somehow it's good to quickly learn things. So it's a standard deviation, so you can compare all the different kinds of statistical analysis, because it's only you can, for every statistical set of data points, you can get a standard deviation. And then here what is what is plus minus 1 and plus minus 2, and plus minus 1 is so 68, plus minus 2 is 95%. So if you have a random, I could do this. 2,000 data points randomly distributed, then 95% would be within plus minus 2. And you can see this really looks very random. But if you then, that was my insight, if you take 2,000 and you make the average, which is going upward, but you say, okay, now this is what I want to compare the others to, so I make it flat, so 0, so I can see what difference is there for schizophrenia to this control group. But if I make 2,000, then I will have a really nice flat line. And then, of course, if I make a smaller set like 82, then it's very unlikely that this linear regression is also exactly flat, because you have a far more smaller data set, and so there's a chance that it's going a bit up or a bit down. It's very high. And so if you make 3 random sets like schizophrenia, bipolar, depressive, well, one is going upwards and one is going downwards, just like this image suggests. And so there is really nothing, obviously. Or you should discuss it and mention it and really state in the final result that the news outlet should not. But then, of course, this wouldn't get published anyway. So they have to omit this. And so my idea was, you see here this pink data points. I want to get. Subtract these layers, and so my first, when I woke up, said, okay, these super intelligent chatbots, tell them to remove this these data regions. So uploaded here and made long text, and yesterday it really did output the code, and so I could download the image, and there was nothing. And so today, to show you, I had to here, that's a nice, very short, you see, that's a lot of one-liners. I don't like Python, and well, That's the original, and that's what the artificial intelligence. I really asked them again, no, it's not working, please try again. It's still not working, please try again, because I did not understand the code that it was offering to me. And finally I said, okay, give me the JavaScript, and then I did it myself. And you see, that's what I ended up with after 3 hours of coding. And therefore really, so this is now my code. You see a lot more pages, but okay, I added some here, user interface and everything. And so, yeah, that's, we can remove this. And this was this evil news outlet. And so here, that's now my code. I really, it's worth putting it online, because you see, you can now do it yourself. If you have some kind of graphics with this overlays, and you remove them, and then you can use my nice code. And you see, there are many regions, they overlap, and so I really decided, you see, you have to draw a polygon here, and so yeah, it takes, you see, as programming did take me 3 hours, so it was a nice, and then you add a polygon, and you see, yeah, it works. and so I added a zoom mode. You see where we really, here's the main, you see, getting the mouse coordinations to map, even if the zoom upwards, and so. And yes, so let's reload, and so finally I ended up here with all this, and then I could simply here add by clicking here at a data point, I got this, and that's really, I'm quite proud of it. You see here, physicist. And so it really worked out instantly. So these were the points. You see, I did not add anything to and then I get the curve, the linear regression. And again, I asked ChatGPT, give me a linear regression, and they do in JavaScript. And so you can ask these artificial intelligence for problems that have already been solved thousands of times by poor humans who did it manually, and then you can build on this. But if you ask artificial ChatGPT something, or DeepSeek something that is not, then they fail completely. But you see, it's yeah, I could identify the points, and because I got exactly the same linear curve regression, and you see that's only 71 instead of 11 missing. But these are very close here in the middle, because because of the overlays, it's now hard to see. And then I said, okay, now I split these data points in 50-50 by random, and let's see if I will still get, you see, if it's just a random distribution. Well, and I've split this, then this upwards is only by chance, because of 50 random distributed against 2000. You see, then split it and see if I can get, and so I see now, I already here do it 50 times, and you see, indeed. These, you see here now, the two kinds of purple, and 150, so 35 and 36, and you see sometimes you get really, you get even the same as a control group, but mostly it's upward, and that's now nice, because you see, now I understand here, I really did reproduce this region. Yeah, I guess I did exactly the same. It just made split it into 50-50 and let it run several hundred times, and then you can see mostly you have this linear regression here inside, and that's why. But okay, I could also clear it. But if you you see 70, I did count them, 70% of these data points are not even inside the region that they proclaim to be. So it's really, and if I now here add some data points, let's say 5 data points here upwards and 5 data points here, and I do it again, you see then it's flat like the control group. And okay, but I must admit they have measured something, and these 82 data points really suggest that there is an increase from lower brain damage to higher brain damage. Of course, you see, I now must work with the 71 data points that I can see, and they did measure. It's still this what I said in the beginning, that if you compare a small data set to a huge data set, then you will have some up and some down. And if you now add these smaller subsets, they level out again to the control group, which really looks so I still think there is nothing, and so seeing what damage these studies do to when people really, you see some I was really shocked to read suffer decades, that the life expectancy is 20 to 30 years shorter than healthy people. This is really shocking, and it really makes me very sad. This, of course, includes many people with suicide. So and then you subtract 70, 60 years life expectancy in the Western countries, and therefore that is 20 to 30. So if you grow up and get alive at 30 or 40 years, then you're this many decades less is probably not true. And yeah, I'm running on Chromium, and you can see I'm interested in buying lithium phosphate. It's really terrible, and you see these studies. There should be a portal. There is this sub-pub where you where you can comment studies after they've been published. A portal that's only for statistical studies that somehow make headlines by making a relationship without saying anything on cause and effect, and so there's a huge industry, and so really I please this, as I said, make this institute, then make this crowdfunding to gain some money, and then simply pay a lawyer who pays himself by suing all these evil. You see this. There was again here. Now I deleted this for this lab leak just recently. Again, a newspaper, German, who said, "Oh no, there's no clear proof that it's from a lab," and there's overwhelming unity among scientists that it's from a natural origin. And you see, that's a lie. There is no scientific proof that's from the nature, and there are overwhelming scientific proof that it's from a lab, and so it's completely telling what they did say, and so they should be sued for millions of dollars to be reinvested, and therefore really I made this really. I'm quite proud. You see here that I really did reproduce it, and as I said, I still am not, because you see the 95% window, which is suggesting that it's random anyway, and so they gave no scientific, not even an idea why for schizophrenia it's the brain damage, if this is linked to brain damage, is lower in less than 35 years, and for bipolar it's even higher and then decreasing. You see, and they didn't even suggest that, well, maybe it's just shit what we made up. But you see, you could at least you could somehow, because there's that difference between bipolar and schizophrenia. In schizophrenia, you need, if you, please don't, but if you trust on medication, you need lifelong medication, and they have serious side effects. With bipolar, I would think that you can somehow, in the beginning, you need medicine, but that's why you are higher, because side effects of all these psychopharmaca, they really, including reducing brain volume and also dampen your consciousness, and so they reduce the activity and therefore the axons, and so the axons get removed and then show up in the blood. You see, there can be some reasoning, but you see, with bipolar, the people end up with coping with life, and so it reduces. And whereas with schizophrenia, with the lifelong medication and increase, they have this line that they did control it to medication, and that they found that medication, you see, and clozapine, this is really this very strong, which is then used when no other medication works, and so they say they did control it, and they here they've found no significant to medication, which I don't understand. Because what they did measure is therapy resistant schizophrenia. So these were only patients where all the ordinary medication did not work, and then they tried the even harder medication. And so where is the control group of this of 80 schizophrenia patients who don't take medication at all? And this from 25 to 60. This is also the tragedy of this graphic. You see, they only go up to 60 because there's a life expectancy of therapy resistant schizophrenia. Well, it ends at 60, and so that's why here now this curve is, and you don't have data points before 24, because then the patients, they try to do without medication, and then they start at 20 with medication, and at 25 they end up as the therapy resistant medication, and therefore very sad story. And yeah, I also want to mention it because now schizophrenia, that's really somehow my life is connected to schizophrenia, even so I am not. Hearing voices, and so a few weeks ago, months again, I like to make this test with this artificial intelligence, and it also did fail. But DeepSeek, it did already. I think, did I make a video? No, I did not. So it did make, because I have this website already some years ago, and no one of you really, I think it's because I have this theory or idea that this voice inside is really a second personality. So there's really brain structure inside, and they can work in parallel. And so it's basically, it would be murder to prescribe medicines that kills this second voice, because, and so you see, it's I should translate it to English here in Google. I can do it in Chrome, so you can read. So I have these 2 points. So they have thoughts for themselves, and they can remember their thoughts, and on this I can define what is a personality, and if I can prove that this voice is really having inner thoughts you don't hear, and they can remember, then they really, and it would be murder. And so I did make here this mathematics test where you have to calculate from left to right, and the voice have to calculate from right to left, and the voice has to remember the first result and say it in the end. But you see, people with schizophrenia, they have so hard lives, doing math tests, and so I had this idea to make here a 3D game, and so I asked DeepSeek, but in the second, after I refined the prompt, then it was able to why don't we, you see it all, and then I had to basically do it all over again, and you see I ended up here with let's do the countdown, with a game where it's also, and it's again this field of schizophrenia and all the studies. You see, it's what I said about this Nazi science. You see, there is this agreement that these psychic disorders, they are physically, and then you do prescribe this medicine, which all these medicines, they made simply screenings. They just somehow made new proteins, and then they tested with poor animals, and if they see some psychotic effect, and they do it further, and so this idea that that they are all murderers because they are killing in personalities, and now if you compare this to artificial intelligence. So I made here this nice 3D games where you have to focus on evading finding the gaps and fly through, so your concentration is already taken by surviving, and then you still have to see the geometry, and you have to the voice can focus on the colors, and in the end the final war is you have to combine which was the second or the third new geometry with the color, and that's why here in the demo mode you see the blinking, and to understand it, you see here now that's the color, and only really I would like if someone was hearing voices, but again you see alone you always lose it, but I want to mention it because it's also about schizophrenia, but here the focus here is on making founding an institute really that very aggressively fights for the truth, and really pull all these evil scientists with evil studies, statistical studies, which really don't care about cause and effect, but only care about generating evil headlines for the news outlets, which therefore get published, and so really I'm quite proud, because I really was able to do in 3 hours what artificial intelligence was not able to do, and reproduce it, but at the same time show. I really think that it's a totally random result that they built on to somehow invent a correlation, and that's this brain damage. You see, it's alcoholics. You see, the neurons get damaged. So you see, and people with schizophrenia, they may have lots of drug problems, and the medication you see have serious side effects, and therefore then to simply omit this and just publish a result which is totally not understandable, that these people with some disorders have in the early ages lower or higher brain damage, which obviously is only a result because you have a far smaller data set that you compare against a huge data set, and therefore you don't have the flat, but somehow and so totally. Please leave a comment if you would like to join this institute, and you see there is this bigger thing now with this lab leak, which is fought by this community of scientists, and therefore we have to have a mechanism that really where the truth prevails. And that's a sad thing about now this lab leak. All this new evidence, and it's now really allowed to say, yeah, it's a lab leak. It's only because it fits to the agenda of Donald Trump and his fascist leadership. And so you see, if he now will make a deal with China, and now China and the US are best friends again, then, well, it's over. So we now have a time window of maybe only a few months to really give the attention to this scientific facts that don't get published. Because you see all the scientific community, they continue with their Nazi science that only publish results that the leaders want to have. And now we have a fascist leader who really does support the lab leak theory, and so there's only a limited window. And so this institute that fights for truth with a main focus on the statistical, because here there is a lot of work for a lawyer to do by pulling the newspapers and the evil scientists to court. But of course it would also apply on the lab leak. Okay, that's it for today. Bye. Quick update with two things. First, here I added these regions, so I found out how they very likely made these convincing areas which show some significant statistical, and therefore you see here it is. You see these are 100 linear regressions based on a 50-50 split. So always half of them is one curve, one line, and then here at 1 year, so x coordinates, so I get 100 data points, and then I simply calculate the mean and the standard deviation. And so by try and error, it was 1.5 standard deviations. That you see I make up for 20 years, 20 data points and the x coordinate, and that's how I calculate this area, which is you see, yes, here you have 100 points, and so you have 1.5. You see one standard deviation was 68% inside, and 2 standard deviation was 95, so it's 80%. And yes, you see 80% of these linear regressions always are inside this area. But this suggests 1.5 that 80% of the data points, the real data points, are inside, but 70% are outside. And based on these outside, you make an artificial line that, of course, is in between, and then you make 100 different of these lines, and you make artificial data points, and these are. You see, usually you have with the data set some range that indicates the error, and so here if they show these areas, this indicates that the error, that's the data points I was in, but it's okay. And a second thing is I added the random test, and so let's go to a clear. Here that's cleared, and this is pure random. You see, it's the same data sizes, nearly 2000 and then 82, and you see if I just repeat, well, then you also, you see here, now you could make a study out of an increasing brain damage for schizophrenia, and decreasing for what is purple, is depressive, and now again increasing for schizophrenia, decreasing for depressive, and it's really exactly same random distribution. You see now you have this is depressive increasing, and if the two here is if I all make them equal size. You see, that's what you get if you really compare a same size data set, and you see that these error areas, they overlap, and there's nothing you see. So this is really proof that if you simply go to compare a small data size to a huge data size, then you get, of course, some results. Here now again, depressive is increasing, and schizophrenia and bipolar are decreasing. And another thing that's also here good to see, let's go back to the full size. They do not only compare data sets in size, but also in range. You can see if you here now this schizophrenia, it has the smallest size. So if you take 82 data points randomly distributed in a smaller width, then you have the linear regression is more likely to go up and down. And so you also here see that schizophrenia is the one with the highest steepest ascent, and it's also, I need to mention, it's not totally random, because if it would be random, then it would be all points equally distributed, but I had to somehow adjust it to the original. You see there are outside less data points. That's because older people, you have less samples, and in the early age, when the people are born, little kids, you don't have as many data points as in the middle. And also, I guess you see these data points up, that's maybe higher brain damage, so these people have some kind of illness, and that's why less people have an illness than healthy people, and same for the lower end. These have maybe a good lifestyle, and therefore they have less damage, and so there is this distribution that is not totally random, and therefore I had to also adjust here this, and I did this by stretching using a cosine. So at the end I simply push the data points outside and upwards and downwards to it would be of course better to get the access to these 1985 data points and use them, make subgroups of 82, and but it's totally a proof that if you just take random results and you simply go from same data size to go back to the cleared image, that you of course will get some results, but they are purely random, and it says you see I could now make several years now could make a paper on whatever you get, you see, by chance. I don't know, maybe they really did measure these 82 from schizophrenia patients, but they could also have measured it from random people, and they still would get comparable results. So this is now a convincing increase of brain damage for depressive disorder, and a convincing, you see, if you here now see these areas that do not overlap, a convincing proof of decreasing brain damage for schizophrenia. Okay, only the first or second really made the study. All these others, they are part of the institute, and they simply get mentioned as well, so they get more citations for their career. And you see, this is all evil, and this is really proof that there is nothing. It was all just by incident giving some curves that were nice to generate headlines. And yeah, bye bye.